All right, let's get into it. Let's jump into this deep dive today. This is going to be about the plane crash in Kazakhstan on Christmas Day. We've got news reports, eyewitness accounts, and even some, chatter from social media to try and figure out what happened. It's a bit of a puzzle.
It is, yeah, it is. It's really fascinating how the initial reports can be so varied and so all over the place. And this crash is it's just a prime example of why it's so important to look at things from different angles.
Definitely. So we're talking about an Azerbaijani airliner, Embraer 190, that was flying from Baku to Grozny on December 25th, and ended up diverting to Aktau, Kazakhstan, for an emergency landing. And, well, things went terribly wrong.
Yeah, tragically wrong. But there's a surprisingly high survival rate. Out of the 67 people on board, 29 survived. So that's nearly half, which is pretty unusual for this type of crash.
Right. It makes you think if something else, something happened before the crash. That might explain that. I mean, picture it. Survivors pulling others from the wreckage, confusion over the numbers. It must have been a chaotic scene.
Yeah, eyewitness accounts definitely paint that picture of chaos.
And the possible causes that we're hearing are really all over the place. First, we heard from Russia's aviation authority, Rosaviatsia. They pointed to a bird strike as the cause. But then Flight Radar 24, the flight tracking website, reported strong GPS jamming that was affecting the plane. And that makes me wonder, how does GPS jamming actually impact a plane? I mean, is it like losing signal on your phone? Or is it something more serious?
It's much more serious for an aircraft. Imagine relying on your GPS to tell you where you are, especially during a critical maneuver, like an emergency landing. And then that signal suddenly becomes unreliable or even disappears completely. I mean, the pilots would be flying blind, essentially.
So it's not just like a minor inconvenience. This could actually be the difference between a safe landing and a disaster.
Exactly. And in a region with heightened geopolitical tensions, GPS jamming becomes even more concerning. It really raises questions about who might be responsible and what their intentions are.
Which brings us to another piece of this puzzle, the explosion of an oxygen tank on board the plane. I mean, that just adds a whole other layer of complexity. Was this just a simple mechanical failure? Or was there something else going on even before this bird strike?
That's the question, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the oxygen tank explosion could be connected to the bird strike.
Yeah.
Or it could be something completely separate. We really need more information to be able to say for sure.
Then there's all the speculation that's been, kind of swirling around online. Some people are even saying, even some experts are suggesting that the plane might have been mistakenly targeted as a Ukrainian drone. I mean, it does make you think. The plane was headed to Grozny, and there are reports of Ukrainian drone activity in the region at the time.
Right, and it's definitely a possibility, especially when you consider the photos and videos that have been circulating online. You know, some of them show holes in the fuselage of the plane.
Yeah.
And that damage that some people are saying is consistent with being hit by an anti-aircraft missile.
I see what you mean. Those images are pretty striking. But we do have to remember that this is it's all just speculation right now. We need hard evidence before we can say whether misidentification was a factor. I think it is interesting, though, that even with all the technology we have, something as simple as mistaking a plane for a drone could still happen.
Yeah, it really it shows you the challenges of identification in modern warfare, especially with the increasing use of drones. It raises the question of how do you ensure accurate identification in a fast-paced and high-pressure environment? It's a really complex issue with some potentially devastating consequences.
Right. Okay, so we've got a potential bird strike, we've got GPS jamming, we've got an oxygen tank explosion, and even the possibility of the plane being mistaken for a drone. That's a lot to sort through. I mean, where do we even begin to unravel all of this?
Well, I think we have to start with the immediate aftermath of the crash. What were the initial responses? How did the investigation unfold? That's where we'll find the first clues to help us understand what happened. Those early actions can be really telling.
Okay, so let's dig into that then and see what we can find out about the initial response and the early stages of the investigation.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Well, I mean, as you might expect, there was action right away from several countries. Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Russia all got involved immediately.
Right, a truly international effort there, which makes sense.
Absolutely. A special investigative team was even sent to Aktau, and they made it a top priority to recover that black box.
I remember hearing about that. It's like it's kind of like that crucial piece of evidence in a detective movie. It holds all the secrets.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It records everything that happens on the plane, conversations in the cockpit, instrument readings, engine sounds, you name it. It's essentially a flight data recorder, and it helps investigators reconstruct the final moments of the flight and try to figure out what led to the crash.
So what exactly are they looking for in that black box data? Like, what kind of clues could it reveal about this particular crash?
Well, they're looking for anything unusual, mechanical failures, pilot error, external factors like GPS jamming, all of those things can leave traces in that data. In this case, they're going to be paying close attention to any signs of GPS interference, communication between the pilots and air traffic control, and any alarms or warnings that might have gone off in the cockpit.
Fascinating. So besides the black box, what else are the investigators focusing on?
Well, they're also looking into the technical aspects of the plane itself.
Yeah.
Was there a pre-existing issue with the aircraft or with that oxygen tank specifically? Embraer, the company that makes the plane, has offered to help with the investigation.
Right, that makes sense. But wouldn't their involvement also raise questions about potential bias in the investigation?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. It's always important to consider potential conflicts of interest, especially in an investigation that's as complex and high profile as this one.
Absolutely. And speaking of high profile, what about the official responses from the different countries involved?
Well, there have been some interesting developments there. Initially, Azerbaijan's president, Ilham Aliyev, attributed the plane's diversion to bad weather.
That seems, I guess that seems like a pretty standard initial response. Blaming the weather before you know all the facts.
Right, exactly. But he later walked back that statement, and he urged everyone to avoid speculating until the investigation was complete. He also declared a day of mourning in Azerbaijan, which really shows you the impact this tragedy has had on the country.
Yeah, I can only imagine the grief and uncertainty the families of the victims must be going through right now, just waiting for answers while dealing with such a devastating loss.
It's a heartbreaking situation. And then you also have the geopolitical aspect of this to consider. Russian President Vladimir Putin offered his condolences and even sent aid to Kazakhstan.
It's a reminder that even amidst tensions and conflicts, there's still this shared humanity when it comes to responding to these kinds of tragedies.
Yeah, exactly. And the crash itself, raises questions about the impact that these tensions are having on aviation safety, especially in regions with active conflicts.
It feels like we're constantly walking a tightrope between technology and human error, and between diplomacy and conflict.
It's a delicate balance, and this crash highlights just how precarious that balance can be, especially when you consider the possibility that this plane was actually mistaken for a drone, like some people have been saying.
It is it's a pretty chilling thought, isn't it? That even in this age of, advanced technology, a passenger plane could be mistaken for a drone. With such with such potentially fatal consequences.
It really underscores the need for clear communication, robust identification systems, and most importantly, a commitment to de-escalation and conflict resolution.
Absolutely. So we've got these investigations that are underway. We've got this black box that hopefully holds some crucial answers and official responses that that reflect how serious the situation is. But even with all of this, there's still so many unanswered questions.
Absolutely. I mean, we still don't know for sure what caused the plane to divert to Aktau in the first place. Was it just bad weather, like they initially suggested, or was there some sort of technical issue, pilot error, or something else entirely?
Right. And what about that GPS jamming that was reported? Was that intentional, or was it just interference from something else? It seems like every piece of information we get just leads to more questions.
Yeah, that's how it goes with these complex investigations.
Yeah.
It's rarely a straight line to the truth. It's more like assembling a puzzle, piece by piece, until you start to see that clearer picture.
And in this case, the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about the loss of life, the safety of air travel in general, and the possibility that this could happen again. It's not just about figuring out what happened to this one plane. It's about learning from this tragedy so we can try to prevent something like this from happening again. It's funny. We started out trying to figure out what happened to this one plane, but it feels like this deep dive has become about so much more than that.
It has. We've gotten into aviation safety, right, and the complexities of modern warfare. Even the way The way information spreads and how people interpret it, it's a good reminder that even these seemingly isolated events are often connected to bigger issues.
And those issues, like you said, they're so complex. We're talking about technical things, geopolitical stuff, even human factors. It can be kind of overwhelming, honestly, trying to sort through it all.
Yeah, it's a lot. Especially these days, we're bombarded with information constantly. It's hard to even know, what to believe.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We've seen, conflicting reports. We've seen speculation presented as fact, and even attempts to manipulate the story for political reasons. It makes you wonder, how do we even, how can we be better at sorting through all this and figure out what's really going on?
Yeah. I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? There's no easy answer, but I think a good place to start is by being aware of our own biases. Recognizing that no one source has all the answers, and just being willing to question things.
So being more like critical thinkers, not just taking in whatever we see.
Exactly.
It's about actively engaging with the information, digging deeper, looking for evidence, considering different viewpoints.
Yeah, exactly. And recognizing that sometimes there aren't easy answers. Some questions might stay unanswered. Some truths might stay hidden. But it's that process of trying to find them. Trying to understand how the world works.
Yeah.
That's where the value is.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think that's what we've been trying to do in this deep dive. We haven't just laid out a timeline of what happened. We've explored the different layers of this story, the different perspectives, the questions that are still out there. We've tried to get you thinking along with us, to draw your own conclusions based on the information.
And hopefully it's made you a little more curious. Maybe
Sure.
it'll encourage you to keep looking into this story or others like it. Because trying to understand the world, it's a journey, and we're all in it together.
That's a really great way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the plane crash in Kazakhstan, we want to leave you with this. Don't let the conversation stop here. Keep asking those questions. Keep looking for the answers. Keep searching for the truth. Because in a world where information is so powerful, but also where it's so easy to be misled, it's more important than ever to think critically and be able to tell what's real from what's not. Thanks for joining us.